next to this. Let me first give you a real quick 2 seconds on my background. Born in Madison, raised there, went to public high school, graduated from East High. In fact, I met somebody tonight whose wife graduated from East High, the doctor over there. Then went on to UW, graduated from there in 1986. Now, I know a lot of you over here are thinking, okay, born in Madison, graduated from UW, is he really a conservative? Is there a conservative with that background? Well, let me tell you something. You're looking at the guy in 1983 when there were protests all over the UW campus about the Sandinistas, Iran-Contra, or whatever. I can't remember. They had so many protests. That in my speech class, they made you do 2 big speeches of the year. Most kids did it about why I like the Packers or what did I do for my summer job. Mine was the virtues of Ronald Reagan's economic policy, and the second one was the virtues of Ronald Reagan's foreign policy. So, die-hard Reagan Republican. In fact, my father was the highest-ranking Republican from Wisconsin in the Reagan administration.
What grade did you get on that?
You know, funny enough, I actually did okay because I got good marks on my delivery, but it wasn't an official professor. It was an assistant professor, and she was a little bit, okay, I'm not going to go there, but I think I got like a B or something like that. I was kind of surprised myself because I did get some bad grades in my economic class, because one time I got into this long debate about, no, Sweden socialism is not the path. And the professor and I got into a 2-hour-long debate in his office, and I ended up getting a C, and I thought I should have gotten an A+, but, you know, that's my view on life. I then moved out to Washington, D.C., because my parents were out there since '81, and in '86 I moved out there. I started working for a financial advisory company. I started my own about 1.5 years later. I then ended up building that company to be a nationwide company advising community banks. And in '94, I bought my first community bank. And that put me on a trajectory of buying community banks around the country from '94 to today. Today, I think I own 4 of them, one in Baltimore, one in Southern California, Ohio, and Southern California. I started an asset management business. Private equity business, and a few other things. I guess you could call me your classic entrepreneur. So I don't want to, as I said, spend a lot of time talking about myself because it's very boring. The only other important thing that I have to share about myself is I'm married, have 2 wonderful daughters, and a big part of my life, important part of my life, is I have a foundation that I started back in 1998. The first focus of it was funding research in multiple sclerosis. You may ask why that? Because I have it. I got it in 1991. Knock on wood, I'm a fitness nut, and I'm doing well. The other thing, though, because I'm a Christian, and I believe in the principles of Christianity, who much is given, much is expected, I started something called the Hovde homes. These are homes around the world that take care of homeless children, street children, that suffer from all the ailments of society, but don't get me down that path because I could talk to you about it for hours and you'd never get out of here. But it's a big part of who I am and my company, and I involve my company in a whole host of charities, things like NGS, which funds the families for our soldiers that get lost in Iraq or Afghanistan. So it's just a big part of who I am. Let me tell you why I'm thinking of running. Many people have come up to me. Why are you running? Why are you thinking of doing this? Well, as I often say, it's certainly the last thing I need to do from a personal lifestyle standpoint. I like my personal life being private, and I don't, who enjoys being attacked like some of the people in this room. Alberta, look at what you had to go through. I mean, you've committed your time, your energy. Rebecca, I mean, they're putting themselves up there, and they're being attacked at every single turn. So it's not something. Jeff, same thing. It's not something that is enjoyable to jump into this process. But I am deeply, deeply concerned about where this country is headed. You know, over the last 11 years, I've gotten up in the morning, like many of you, and I'm yelling at the television set. Like many of you, I get up and I look at the debt piling up in our country, heading us right down the path of Greece and Western Europe. Like many of you, I see our culture moving one from self-independence to one of dependence and entitlement. I, like many of you, are terribly upset how special interests have taken over our political system. I don't care if it's the public employees unions on the left or the big mega corporations on both sides. I, like many of you, are concerned about the culture. You know, I have 2 daughters. Think of it. How often do you wake up in the morning, you turn on the show, and you have to get bombarded by about Britney Spears or Kim Kardashian or Paris Hilton as being put up as almost quasi-role models? I have 2 daughters. Or I have to police my 13-year-old being able to watch her television. Why? They have shows like Jersey Shore. I never watched this, but I finally said, I've got to watch 5 minutes of this show to understand this show. And it's about a bunch of derelicts that basically sit around in alcohol and drug-induced parties engaging in sex. Is that what we want to be pumping over our TV? You know, I grew up in a time where, you know, you could leave your kids and what would I watch? The Brady Bunch or Happy Days or all these wonderful shows. And now that's what we're left with? Well, the biggest thing I'm concerned about is our economy. Like many of you, I've had too many friends that I've seen their businesses struggle. I've seen people that have been faced with foreclosure, that have worked and put themselves out there on the limb, and yet government has continued to encroach on the private sector. Do you all realize that government right now federal government, is 24% of GDP. That's our economic output. If you factor in state and local government, it's almost 40%. You know what that sounds like? Western Europe, Greece. How can you not say you've become a quasi-socialist country when government has become that big a share of the private sector? It is squeezing out the viability of the private sector. And that's why I applaud Scott and Rebecca and all the people in this room, Jeff, Alberta, for standing up and fighting back. But we have to fight it at every level. Because Washington has been wholly taken over. I, being in the financial services world, I have watched firsthand for the last 11 years how the connection between Wall Street and Washington has created this crony capitalism that have given us booms and busts and have pillaged the common American retirement and savings account. You got to understand, Wall Street doesn't make a lot of money in stable markets. Margins become too thin. So what does Wall Street need? It needs booms, like the internet boom, and busts, because they can make money on the upside, they can make money on the downside. How about the housing boom bust? How about the commodity boom bust? How about the government spending boom bust? If I got into all the things that I have had to sit there and witness, it would make you all sick. So when people ask me, why am I thinking about doing that? These are the reasons why. We have had Washington being totally taken over and corrupted. Let's look at our tax system. People wonder why we're not creating jobs. Do you all know that the small and medium-sized business average tax rate is about 34 to 35%? Do you know what the average tax rate of a Fortune 500 company is? Mid to high teens. Half the level. Why? Giant corporations spend tens of millions of dollars a year in Washington, D.C. buying off politicians to what? Create little loopholes in the tax system. So they can drive their revenue through those loopholes and have much lower tax rates. Do you know that GE, one of the largest corporations in the world, has 1,000 people in their tax department. Think of that, 1,000 people in their tax department. There are years GE pays almost zero in income tax. Or how about my favorite company that I love bashing, Goldman Sachs? Goldman Sachs has 84 offshore corporations. Yep, 84 offshore corporations. Goldman Sachs in some years has made $10 billion. And in some of those years, they have paid nothing in income tax. Think of that. How is a small and medium-sized company, which has been the job engine for our country throughout its history, how are they going to compete when they already start out with having higher funding and equity costs, and now they're having to pay twice the tax rate? Well, you have to understand, giant businesses fire as many people as they hire every year. It's the small and medium-sized businesses that grow and build our economy. So those are the reasons why I'm thinking of getting into this race. I believe strongly in this country. Our forefathers gave us the greatest concept in the history of mankind. Understand the brilliance of America and what it was given. This country has lifted more people out of poverty, not only within its country, but globally. It has spread freedom and liberty across the globe. But we can't take it for granted. And sadly, that's what started to have happened over the last 25 years, and particularly over the last 10 to 15 years. We have to fight for what we believe in. It's going to take sacrifice by all of us. It's going to take courage, and it's going to take ingenuity. Fortunately, something this country has always had an abundance of. Let me just say this in closing words, because I planned a speech for like 20 minutes. I could stand here all night talking about any of these issues, but I know we're at a timeline, and that beautiful lady will come up and cook me. If I get into this race, and people like you decide to elect me, I promise you this is my solemn promise to you, I will make every tough vote. I will take the hard stand, and I will always put this country first over my re-election or any type of political career that I may have. I thank you all. God bless America. And thank you all here.